the Sports Betting Network.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch Moss, Paulie Howard with you live downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Loaded 3-hour program lined up. Huge NFL news, which we'll start with here coming up in a second. Are the Steelers a threat? My goodness. Russ looked good last night. Game 4 World Series, a yawner so far. NBA numbers, do you concur? Adam Chernoff in 30 minutes. Paul Stone, Chris Mad Dog Russo coming up later on. And the owner of this bad boy property, Derek Stevens, also in studio.
That's a lineup. That's a show, baby.
It is.
Afternoon drive and walking into breaking news. Love that.
Tons of it in the NFL. Let's start here. Colts made the decision to move on, at least this week, from Anthony Richardson to Joe Flacco. I think it's the right move. Richardson was not playing well at all. I mean, all you got to do is look at last week's box score and see that he was 10 of 32. And the number one problem of him coming out of college anyway, freak athlete, we know this, very strong, big, fast, can't throw the ball. Occasionally, yes, the deep ball is going to look pretty from him, but the accuracy is just not there, hasn't been there. It's a problem. They have moved on, and guess what that means in terms of where it matters most to us? It's an upgrade in the betting market because the Colts are now only catching 5 against the Vikings this week, and I totally agree with the move.
Are we going to do this again? Year 2 where a team's going to get a shot in the arm going to Flacco and Flacco can save the season? I mean, certainly, what happens if they win? Tough games coming up. You have the Vikings, you play the Bills, but is this just get right, develop, and then we'll go back to you? Or could this be, well, if we keep winning with Flacco, I don't know what we're going to do with Richardson. I mean, to think, we'll talk to Rich Gannon tomorrow. He would know. Can you teach and coach accuracy? I say no. But the fact that the guy's had 10 starts and a top 5 pick, and maybe a lot of this is not so much the 10 completions, but I'm taking myself out of the game.
Well, that's what it was.
And also, yeah, but that's so it goes back to, though, how long are we sitting them, though? I think it's a little bit of both, though. It's coming out and saying, well, I took a play off, and not thinking there was a problem with it. I'm sure the offensive line would say, hey, I need a blow. I'm tired of blocking. Mm-hmm. Nuts. But what happens if they beat the Vikings? What happens if they keep winning? Does the organization say, let's do this, we can go to the playoffs, or is it, let's develop Richardson and put him back in there? I don't know.
I mean, if they, first of all, like you said, the schedule is very difficult coming up. At Minnesota this week, the Bills the week after that, at the Jets, they stink, we all know that, but then the Lions. It's the back end of the schedule where they could actually potentially make, I mean, if they can steal one of these games coming up in the next month, this team's going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's as long as Joe Flacco is the starting quarterback. As for Richardson, you know what? Here's the problem. Because now, 2 of the top 4 picks in the draft last year have been benched already. These teams do not have to start these young quarterbacks from day one. That's the most egregious mistake that we're seeing. Bryce Young, not close to being ready. Richardson, same sentence as Bryce Young. So you need to put this guy on the shelf for at least the rest of this year, as long as Joe Flacco can stay healthy. Maybe he can learn a couple of things. Maybe he can get better. Maybe I can somehow teach accuracy. I'm with you. I don't know if that's possible or not. And you just have to punt on the season with him as the quarterback. You can't bring him back if Flacco's going to stay healthy.
I know this. The fan base has turned on him. So it goes back to, it could be Cleveland Part 2. If you're winning games with Flacco, how do you go back and make the change? And then what if you make the playoffs? Then, okay, well, see you, Joe. We're going back to Richardson. So I want to see here maybe if it's enough for the top 5 pick and they decide, no, not the right guy, or if it's just maybe, go in the corner, you're in timeout for a couple starts after what happened. Fascinating to watch and see what happens, and it starts Sunday night.
Paul, because of this news today, I specifically looked at NFL mock drafts for next year.
Sure.
I saw multiple mocks, and I just put my arms up in the air, and I said to myself, are we really going to do this again? Multiple mocks have 5 quarterbacks going in the top 10. It's a rinse and repeat until teams realize, hey, it's a total reach to take almost any of these guys that high in the draft. And they're not ready to play. We don't need to force feed them down your throats and our fans' throats and get them out there for week 1 to play. We can wait. We can take better players at the top of the draft. And these guys can drop. That's fine. We're going to wait. And if they're not there, fine. We'll wait till the following year. That's what you're going to have to do. That's the best thing that Tom Brady has said since he retired. When he was on with Stephen A. Smith, these organizations have no idea what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to stop.
Yep.
He went to Michigan. He learned. In New England right away. He learned until there was an injury. Came out, and then that was his job from there. But so that was, part of the biggest news today. Also, how about this with the Ravens? I mean, as good as it gets in terms of offense today, they're the team that traded for Deontay Johnson from Carolina. Are you serious? Did they need a receiver?
No, but are they blocking their opponent, their rivals? And what could happen here? I mean, because so many other teams needed them that you would think, why would you do this? Carolina picking up a lot of the money, but no, you need defense. You might have too many weapons in Baltimore. I can't believe I'm saying that. That's not the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's the problem. Bateman had the drop, but it's can you stop somebody? And you allowed Winston to throw for 330 on you. Can't lose that game. But you have the MVP front runner. You have Henry. You have Jag. I mean, you look at the weapons that you have, Likely and Andrews. That's Flowers. I don't think I need another wide receiver, but maybe it's block the Chiefs, block some other teams. A lot of teams needed wide receiver help, but helps that Carolina's picking up the tab with some of this. I was shocked by the news.
Yeah, and by the way, they got a 5th-round pick in return. They also sent a 6th-round pick to Baltimore with Deontay Johnson. Right? I mean, that's a sweet deal. I get it. They don't need a receiver, but that's a deal that you can't even turn down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like if they called you and you weren't even thinking about adding a guy like him, they're like, wait, what?
Well, what happened though? Well, like no one else. People were calling.
How did Tampa Bay not want to make a move for somebody like him?
Yeah.
Right. How about? I got another one. They play in 2 nights. How about Houston?
Absolutely.
That news came down today as well.
What happened first?
I think Diggs was announced out for the year,
which they knew anyways because you could tell. It was a non-contact play. You knew he was gone.
Right.
So, yeah, you're right.
The Texans probably should have been on the phone immediately Sunday night.
Maybe they're thinking, hey, look what happened last year. All we needed was Dell, Collins, and Schultz in a running game. But it hasn't looked the same this year.
So the Ravens, in my head, I'm thinking about what that Week 1 rematch would look like in the playoffs. This insane, high-powered offense from Baltimore side, adding players like Deontay Johnson now before the deadline. Now, the Chiefs got Hopkins, but what else did they do? They got Uche from the Patriots, 26-year-old defensive lineman. And that's how they're winning championships now. It's not Mahomes in the offense, it's the defense. And they're like, okay, go ahead, Baltimore. And this move was made before Baltimore. They're like, you can add offense. We're fine. We're going to add more defense. We're going to get better on that side of the ball. So it's going to be that top 5 unit in the league taking on Baltimore if they play again with that offense.
So how do you feel about your Houston future tickets?
Oh, far from great, let me tell you.
Diggs out for the year, and he's also a free agent. So I think it'd be a mistake for someone to throw him a bag in the offseason, considering what happened in Buffalo.
I don't think that'll happen, yeah.
What it looks like now, and then just feel bad for him. But he's out for the season and see if he gets a payday. But now you got to get Collins back in a hurry if you're Houston, and can you go out and try to make a move now? I mean, this is rough what's happened.
Well, it feels like Nico Collins went down like more than a month ago. I believe he did actually. So IR is 4 weeks.
Yeah, it was week 5 against the Bills.
Yeah, right. Okay, so It's supposed to be 4 weeks. Well, here we are coming up on week number 9. And as soon as you just Google his name, it's like, is he going to be ready by week 10? ? Don't know. This stuff can linger a little bit longer, but boy, that's a killer injury. This thing with Diggs now. And the Jets somehow remain a favorite in that game.
Yes.
We'll talk to Adam Chernoff coming up in about 20 minutes on that. It's got to be – that's going to be a bad – here's why I'm off the Texans now. It's going to be pros versus Joes in this game. The public will be on Houston. John Murray said that today from the Westgate. It's going to be a very popular public side.
Yep.
Sharps are going to be on the Jets.
Okay. All right. Probably.
Strange.
Got some intrigue, though, Thursday.
Oh, it is.
Sure.
It is.
McCaffrey also targeting November 10th when he's going to come back. And what you said earlier last night, yes, Pittsburgh is a threat. Let Russ cook. Look good. Still a little rust. But I know the defense struggled. Humans nailed it on the pregame show with us. Dimes is good on the road, awful at home. Funny how that works. But to think that those teams are going to go up and down the field. There were 8 field goals in that game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that game could have been played in the high 30s.
Yeah, right. So Dimes got it done on the road. I don't know what that 2-point conversion play was.
Oh, wow.
Also, it was roughing the punter, too, which wasn't called on the punt return. But this 26 points up and down the field, they are now in first place. And, again, I don't want to hear about the schedule because of what's happened to Cleveland and other teams. And I actually don't really care who you play. I have that much confidence in this offense. And I know they have a good defense that this team is going to do it again. And we're going to have to, is Tomlin going to win Coach of the Year? They'll get to 10, 11 wins. I'm sold on the Steelers, and I like their offense.
I don't think anybody, right, any logical thinking person could watch that game and say Russ is cooked. You need to let him cook.
Yep.
As you said, right? Some of those passes, the one down the sideline, the Pickens, that's as good as it gets.
What a throw.
That's Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning good.
Mm-hmm.
That's elite right there. And so he's capable of making those throws still. It was good to see. Pickens could have had like 4 touchdowns last night. I don't understand. I like what Jason Kelsey said. You could basically skip on one foot, right? For 15 different times, and they're not going to call a touchdown. I don't know how that wasn't a touchdown. But also, Tracy for the Giants looked really good. And here's the problem overall. Now, Danny Dimes is not great. We know this. How many drop passes again last night? That is a major issue here.
I know. But the worst thing that happened to this organization was making the playoffs, that phony team.
2 years ago?
That won every close game. It didn't play anybody because you never would have gave Danny Dimes all that money. The last 8 years, this is the Giants, through 8 games, 2-6, 2-6, 6-2 fluke, 2-6, 1-7, 2-6, 1-7, 1-7.
Oh,
it's a joke. You wouldn't have Dable, you wouldn't have Dimes, you would have moved on. That's the worst thing that happened to this organization was what happened a couple years ago, and they won a playoff game. Yep. And they ran it back, and now they're going to pay the price.
Oh, boy, that is vile and nasty what you just said.
Oh, I need a timeout. It's so bad. 1-7, 1-7, 2-6. Good game, though. It's funny how that worked out.
It was a good game, yeah.
I didn't have a read. I didn't have a feel. It was entertaining. Big props cashed. Fun game.
All right, Paul's going to recap more of last night's betting action and win some, lose some coming up next. And we will preview Game 4 of the World Series. Will we see a team with any guts at all tonight show up in this spot?
Time. There's nothing more valuable. It's what drives everyone to make the most of every moment. We celebrate living large in the now. In a city where time disappears, we create experiences that electrify the soul and memories that will last forever. We go big, we go all night, and here, everyone is invited. So get loose and get loud.
This is Circa. You'll have the time of your life.
Coming up Tuesday on Follow the Money, Game 4 of the World Series, we talk to the Hall of Famer Chris Mad Dog Russo, also Paul Stone on college football, and the owner of Circa, Derek Stevens. Follow the Money weekdays, 4 to 7 Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Want to see who at VSiN is on a hot streak? Go to VSiN.com/picks to see all the selections and weekly leaderboard of VSiN hosts, writers, and guests. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber and get every pick sent to your inbox daily. Just head to VSiN.com/pro.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it, it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's late night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
last night?
Wow, winning.
Or was it a rough one?
Well, they can't all be winners, can they?
Loser! You're a loser!
Paulie Howard recaps the night in sports betting in Win Some, Lose Some.
Monday Night Football, Austin first touchdown, 16-1. 2 touchdowns, 30-1. Defensive or special teams touchdown, plus 250. Tracy anytime touchdown, 4-1. Steelers from 4 up to 6.5. They get it done. That was a huge miss on the 2-point conversion, as it turns out. What are you doing there? Did you practice that? There's one guy you have to block, and then like the offensive
they weren't even
line,
paying attention.
I know it's lunacy what happened, and I love these guys like Aikman, everyone else who just they can't wait to rip the decision when it fails, but when it works, they don't say anything. And, and if the Giants would have won the game by 1, if they score again and win, and it's like everyone just points out that every time it doesn't work, they never talk about it when it does. And we've seen it happen. Jacksonville did it.
So what, they hated the idea of going for 2?
Yeah, kick the extra point, all this. And you don't want overtime, though. They don't understand it, but that's my rant. How about the quarterbacks cooking? Wilson over 250 yards passing here at Circa, plus 385. Jones, plus 440.
Yeah, there you go.
Just have 250 yards. 2-point attempt. 2-1 at DraftKings. World Series, Freeman does it again. 5 straight World Series games, he went deep. 1,600 now to win MVP. 14-1 first bomb. Plus 550 to go deep. Bueller to go 5 and the Dodgers win. 3-1. How did he do it? What a start again. Big game pitcher.
They got me.
Give him credit. Yeah.
I thought it was a good read because they pulled him out, top of the order, coming up again for the 3rd time. They're like, nope, no way. And I didn't think he'd make it that far, and so that was a losing bet for me last night.
First periods, 7-1, over.
Oh,
the
no.
one loser, the Knights. Yep, they scored 6 minutes in, and then nothing the rest of the way against Calgary. So first period over, 7-1. Columbus plus 210, pounded Edmonton. And the Wizards plus 250 in the association. They got to win. Subscribe, be part of the team, VSiN.com. Our radio and podcast friends at Paulie Does Vegas on Instagram. Send in the videos and tweets. We'll put you on. This has got to be the best squirrel feeder ever. The squirrel feeder set up with the Scream mask. And when the squirrel goes in, he's wearing the mask, essentially. Coming in with how that's done, with the creativity, with the squirrel feeder. Huh? And I see Scary Movie 6 is happening with the Wayans brothers. Good time. You got that, too. We have everything covered here, right? Look at that. Yeah? No?
I used to like the franchise, Scary Movie.
Okay, yeah.
But 6, maybe a little bit too many?
Yeah. Yeah, no good.
No, this is great for Halloween.
That is awesome. Yeah, that is that. Well done. How about some lose some videos? This happened to you? You always get this happened to Kisa, the old German Shepherd we had.
Yep.
You give them the toy, and they're so happy, and then you look over 2 minutes later, and the toy is destroyed.
Yep.
And it's all over the place. Like, what happened? You look so happy. The dog's sitting on the couch with the new toy, wagging the tail. 2 minutes later, that's it. Exploded.
I'd say
stuffing everywhere.
Some dog toys are made a little bit better than others.
Yeah. That's good. And he's still wagging the tail, but okay, there it goes. Can't play the audio because the gal swears. But she was going to take a bath, and she's running the water. All of a sudden, she hears a big splash. She goes into the bath. Oh, peekaboo! The bulldog got in. The bulldog jumped in the tub. Oh, it's my time. Sure. That looks good. A little hot tub for me? Sure. Jumps in. One of them's on the bed. And then the other one went rogue, where he jumps off the bed and goes, is that the water running?
Yeah,
it sounds like a good idea. And the bulldog jumped in the water to take a bath, and he wanted to cool off.
I'm really dirty. Come and clean me up. Let's go.
Sure. Excellent. Smart, heady play. One bad beat. Toronto plus 280 on the money line. They led by 7 with 2 minutes left. Lost in overtime to Denver. That one's tough. All 4 major sports in action. Sports Equinox upon us once again. Celebrate the best time of year for sports bettors with our new Sports Equinox special. Full VSiN Pro access to everything we do through May 1st. Every best bet, every host, every guest. Less than $20 a month. Limited time offer, VSiN.com/subscribe. VSiN.com/subscribe. I should have put this in lose some. This is making the rounds, as it should. Just unacceptable. Again, the demise and misery of the Yankees. They haven't won a playoff series against a non-AL Central team since 2012. They are 14-29 in the playoffs since 2010 when not facing AL Central teams. That's the equivalent of a 53-109 record. And so it's just, you go back to 2017, they're 19-6 against the AL Central. They're 9-22 against the rest of baseball.
Yep.
And they might get swept.
Yep. And thanks to that team, other than Game 1, it's been a very boring World Series because the offense can do nothing. Yankees not named Juan Soto and Giancarlo Stanton batting 152, one home run, 3 RBIs.
Look at the bottom of the order.
Yankees 7 through 9 hitters, 4 for 34, 12 Ks. And then your big boy, and I can't even imagine the heat that he is going to be feeling in New York. Aaron Judge is 1-12, 0 extra base hits, 0 RBIs, 1 walk, 7 Ks. He's batting 140 in the postseason, 20 strikeouts and 43 at-bats. Total abomination out of him. I remember, 25 years ago, and I brought this up during this regular season and earlier in the postseason. Barry Bonds used to get eviscerated every single year in the postseason because the regular season numbers would go away and he would disappear. And then that flipped eventually in the 2002 World Series when he was the best player in baseball by a mile, and anything that was close to the plate, it was going to go on a rocket ship. But it took that long for him to turn it around. Judge is in Barry. I haven't even looked at Bonds. This has to be as bad, if not worse, than Barry Bonds territory.
Yep. Strikeouts, 0 for 10 runners in scoring position, all of it. Can't count on them. Torres and Stanton doing their part along with Soto. Absolutely.
What'd you make of sending Stanton around third?
That horrible play. He can't get the piano off your back, but he can't run. So, again, it goes back to John Sterling. They run the bases like they're drunk. You can't send them there. But it's just, I go back to Boone. Stop with the feelings crap and move guys around in the order. You're not doing anything on offense. With the one game against Kansas City, you take that out. They've done nothing this entire postseason offensively other than Stanton and Soto. You got to mix up the lineup. Either move Judge to lead off or move him back. You got to get him going here. And to your other thing, too, about this isn't the Minnesota Twins. I don't care about your MVPs and what you do in the regular season. This is the New York Yankees. I mean, this is going to follow him around for a long time.
Oh, I would imagine.
And in perfect timing with Chris Russo coming up as well. It also goes to show you the greatness of Derek Jeter. I don't care what happened in the regular season. I could always count on Jeter in October.
No matter what.
And he would deliver, and he would go deep. Yes.
Any surprise, his 3,000th hit was a home run. His last Major League at-bat was a game-winning run. In the All-Star game that year, one of the best bets I'd ever seen, Derek Jeter get a hit, was like plus 175. I'm like, Derek Jeter, last All-Star game, Mr. Clutch his whole career. Of course, he comes up big in the biggest moments. Yep. This guy's the exact opposite.
Yep.
The team scoring first has won all 8 World Series games going back the last 2 years.
Strong.
Freddie Freeman was even money to win the MVP before the game last night. He was 35-1 before the series started. There's no reason to even look because during the game last night he was minus 1,800.
Yeah.
Even money on him was a great bet still last night.
Is it going back to Cali? Man, I don't think so. I mean, the last 24 all-time 24 World Series when the team's up 3-0, 21 have been sweeps. Only 3 times did someone force the game 5, and it ended in 5. So it's not going back to Cali. Last sweep, 2012. Yankees only swept 3 times in their history in the World Series. So it's just it's turned into a mismatch. What's happened other than Game 1, and now how long does Heel go? I don't know, but it's Dodgers plus money. Yeah, sure, I'll take it. Now people are saying, hey, if we get this one tonight, then you got Cole going, and then you never know because it goes back to L.A. for Game 6. It's just they can't do anything offensively, and Judge isn't going to break out of it. And you can still get plus money with some of these props. Like, will he get a base hit? The under on hits, the unders on hits, runs, and RBIs. The under on total bases. I mean, the other disappointing thing is we're looking at a sweep, but Judge and Ohtani are a combined 2 of 23 in the series for 10 strikeouts. And then what would you lay? We talked about it on a pregame show, but Ohtani, no stolen base, $4. They've told, whatever you do, don't steal a base.
Sure.
You can't. So does he even get on in that position? So that's available as well, and Judge is minus 190 to walk. But it's just, it's a total.
So you bet the Dodgers
letdown. Yeah, Dodgers win the series. Dodgers today. Yeah.
You okay? So you also said that you think it's part of the reason there is you thought the American League was terrible.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, and
that was my handicap.
Yeah, and the Dodgers obviously had to go through the Padres. I mean, maybe the best or second best team in baseball.
I know.
Right? The Mets, the way that they were playing,
very good.
Right there behind them too. So did you bet any Yankees to get swept at all?
I saw some people gave it out at 12-1. I didn't. I didn't get there.
Here's the problem that they have going tonight. Matt Vasgersian brought this up about a month or so ago in these bullpen games, and he called it another kettle of fish, right? Because it went well for the Dodgers against the Padres, but he goes, you have to have every single pitcher be on their A game in that spot. And you're going to it's a revolving door. They bring in guy after guy after guy. There might be some guys who are going to be long relief tonight for the Dodgers, depending on how the game is going. Mm-hmm. And then you have to anticipate like every guy having it tonight. That's tough.
Yep. They are 2-1 in bullpen games, but I agree with Vasgersian on that one.
All right. Adam Chernoff typically joins us on Fridays. He'll join us coming up next. What's up with this Texans-Jets point spread on Thursday nights? Follow the money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Sports betting game with VSiN's exclusive betting splits. Stay ahead with real-time market trends and track bet percentages on any matchup. Then uncover the edge by comparing them to the amount of bets placed to find out where the sharp money is headed. Upgrade to VSiN Pro to access betting splits, live odds, line moves, power ratings, and in-depth game analysis. Go to VSiN.com/pro to join VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Well, early Christmas present here in the week on a Tuesday. Adam Chernoff joins the program now, typically on Fridays. We're going to go early this week. He is with, of course, Right Angle Sports. Podcast is called The Simple Handicap, and he is on the Progressive Guest Line. We'll do 2 segments here with Adam. Good afternoon, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I got a question, though, for Paulie here. Like, you're pulling out these squirrel videos. Where are you finding these? Like, what comes across the feed to pull up the squirrel video you just showed the last clip?
Well, number one, usually Man of the People, and everyone sends them in. And was that a Mitch special? Somebody,
Adam, you have no idea what the inbox looks like on a daily basis, either Instagram DMs, Twitter, or email. There's no way we've gotten to 10% of them over the last 5 years. It's impossible.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, this is going deep in the internet. So good on whoever sent that in.
Oh, yeah.
That was impressive.
Yeah, strong.
Yeah. Okay, what do you make of the number on Thursday night? More news, bad news for the Texans today. Stephon Diggs out for the year. I don't know if they were ever considering trading for Deontay Johnson, but the Ravens come in. They swoop him up, so then they're not going to have him. And Nico Collins not going to be back until maybe next week, the way it appears off of IR. He's banged up. So I get that, but it's 2-6 in the Jets. Your team favored by 1.5 or 2 at some books, over 6-2 Houston. What do you think of this number?
So I know it's typically like the hotshot thing to say, like, I got a lot of direct messages or comments about a game, and then you talk about it. But this one, genuinely, it's Tuesday at 1:30 in the afternoon. I'm not kidding. I've been in 2 conversations that have been ongoing on Twitter, and there's been a handful of YouTube comments on the podcast to be like, how is this line where it is? Is this a wrong team favored? And I think a lot of it's being driven by last Thursday, where there was a lot of uncertainty about that Vikings-Ram point spread and how it was moving, and the outcry that fell off out of that after the face mask in the end zone that wasn't, and the sharp square divide and everything that was cooked in there. And we have kind of a repeat of that this week. What I will say, though, is that this number's right. And so I don't agree with any of those comments that I'm getting. And I think there's a couple of very reasonable and easy explanations on why this price is correct. The first is that if we're just looking at market ratings or aggregate ratings, for the last couple of weeks, it's been Houston about 1.5 better than the Jets on a neutral. So if you're giving the Jets home field here for the short week, you're getting to the Jets -1.5. Like, that's what you're getting to. If you want to look at recent closing prices, both of these teams played New England in the last couple of weeks. The Jets closed 0.5 point better than what Houston did. And then there's, of course, going to be in these conversations the knock on how the Jets performed in those games and how Houston has performed. I think the Jets' performances have been very noisy in what we've seen between the kickers missing last week's box score where they outgained the Pats by 2 yards per play, and they ended up losing that game despite not turning the ball over. Here's kind of the facts of what we're looking at. The Texans are a struggling offense that have lost now another key piece to their offense, and the Jets the last 3 weeks have put up at least 5.9 yards per play in games, 2 of which were against tougher defenses. And so there's one team that's very noisy that could potentially eventually get it going. I don't know what we're expecting from the Jets going forward against the Texans team that's just a very different perceived team than the reality of what they're playing at. And we're at a price that is fair. But guys, this is probably the second biggest primetime classic sharp versus square divide game that we've seen all season, next to last Thursday. So it'll be a fun one. We hear a lot about the next couple days.
I'm looking at the screen right now. Baltimore off the loss to Cleveland. They're now touching 9.5 this week against Denver. So think about this for 1 second. If you go back to Sunday, right before kickoff, Denver got as high as 13.5 against Carolina. So are you telling me that Baltimore would be about 23 at home to Carolina?
I think we're getting to some inflated prices if we're getting anywhere close to that far, but potentially that is what you could see, and that would be putting the Panthers back in that Dolphins 2019 category, where the Dolphins were like 22 and 23-point underdogs on the road when they were really struggling. And so I think that's a stretch in 2024, but honestly, you're getting to a pretty crazy number, but it's kind of what it's suggesting. Yes. Here's what I'll say about this game, though. We're looking at the Broncos really stepping up in class. You want to talk about a team that's hit the schedule lottery, if you will. Just think about who they've played the last couple of weeks. The defense got to see Bryce Young because Andy Dalton got in a car crash midweek. They got to see Spencer Rattler on a short week because the Saints were navigating all of those injuries. They went to face Gardner Minshew, who was benched, and they ended up getting Aiden O'Connell. And then they played the Jets and Aaron Rodgers in the rain, where Zerline again was missing kicks for the Jets. And so while the Broncos defense is being spoken about like they're trending up, it's hard to ignore the schedule of opponents that they have faced. And now they're going on the road to play the Ravens, who are the clear number one offense in the NFL. So, like, here's a big test. And part of the reason why we've seen this number move up here early in the week. And it's also a pretty big test for Bo Nix after some of these defenses that he has faced in the last couple of weeks, going on the road to face the Ravens, who, quite honestly, are not the defense that they have been the last couple of years, especially in terms of generating pressure. But this is a massive step up on both sides of the football for the Denver Broncos.
Well said. A good breakdown as well. What do you want to do with Green Bay and Detroit? And it appears it'll be back to Willis, and we don't know when we get Love back, and Detroit more than a field goal.
Well, I'm hoping that Rob Domofsky is not going to be used as a bit of a pawn by Matt LaFleur for another week. I felt bad for the guy as we think back to some of the videos that he was perhaps encouraged to leak from practice showing Jordan Love in those 2 weeks where he was supposed to come back and didn't with the first injury. So Matt LaFleur games the injury report and the system as well as any head coach in the NFL. So we're in for a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of smoke screens and misdirections and all sorts of stuff we're going to see out of the Packers to keep the Lions guessing in such a big game. When I look at this number, I think it's a number that's hedging slightly towards Willis playing. And how I get to that is we think about where this game was initially on the look ahead and some very early prices over the weekend before the injury. This game was priced as a pick'em. The last time we saw Jordan Love go down in week 1, it was a 6-point adjustment made for the Packers point spread. I don't believe that we are going to see the full extent of the 6-point adjustment because we have a much different idea of what Malik Willis is in this system. In week 2, he was being talked about like a quarterback that couldn't throw a football and was as big of a drop-off as there has been in years. I don't think that's realistic after seeing him in 2 games and another one. He's better than we expected him to be. And so if Love does not play in this game, I think Lions 4.5 is the ceiling. If Love does play in this game, knowing he's not 100%, I don't think we can get back to a pick'em. But I do think we're seeing the Lions as a short favorite, less than a field goal. When it comes to this game specifically, my biggest question mark when I'm looking at this is what's going on with the Lions defense, because there was obviously the injury to Aiden Hutchinson a couple of weeks ago. That was significant and expected to make a big difference. In the last 2 weeks since the injury, Detroit has allowed 7.4 yards per play to the Vikings and 6 yards per play and 400 plus yards to the Tennessee Titans. And so keep an eye on this Lions defense as it looks like it is starting to quickly go the wrong direction without their defensive leader up front. And if this is Green Bay with a pretty quirky game plan, potentially, we could see them have some offensive success too. So keep that in mind with the Lions defense going forward.
All right, follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Adam Chernoff with Right Angle Sports. His podcast is called The Simple Handicap. Great breakdown with that. So let's tie in Detroit's opponent from this previous week, Tennessee, who put up those 400-plus yards against the Lions defense, and the score was completely out of control. Now they take on a Patriots team that for the first time in, 750-plus games, with the Jets doing what they did, and somehow New York managed to lose that game by putting up so many yards, not turn the ball over, etc., which is absolutely crazy. You like the Titans here, laying the 3?
No, I do. I bet -3, -120. That price is still available. I think it's good. I think this is a spot where the Titans win and cover at home. Like you mentioned, 2 very contrasting and misleading results last week. I don't want to say the Titans should have won that game. That's not where I'm going with this. But the fact is that the offense finally got something going on the road against the Lions defense. That again, might be trending the wrong way, but that was the best we've seen the Titans offense look all season. And Dan Campbell came out post-game, and he's like, we didn't play very well at all. And that was credit to what the Titans did. It was explosive plays and special teams that burned Tennessee. Like, I get it, but it was a good offensive performance. And now it's a Pats team who was outgained by 2 yards per play, outgained by more than 100 yards. I'm shocked that New England was able to win that game in the fashion that they did. And now the Pats have to go in a week of disrupted prep on the road, not knowing who they're going to start at quarterback yet. If it is May, he's not going to be a full participant during the week in practice. If it is Brissett, I think it's a downgrade. To me, this is a spot where it's kind of a classic box score spot the week after that we just don't see that often. This was supposed to be Titans minus 3.5. There's a chance the Pats have a QB downgrade, but I think the Tennessee's being shortchanged here a little bit too. And so at 3 minus 120, I like the Titans here at home to win and get the cover.
All right, follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. We'll continue with Adam Chernoff, Right Angle Sports, and the Simple Handicap podcast coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the Colts electing to go Joe Flacco today, and that number coming down to now Vikings 5.5 at some books, and what to do with the Cleveland Browns now with Jameis Winston at quarterback. We'll ask him coming up next here on VSiN.
In the heart of downtown Las Vegas, a sports oasis awaits. Stadium Swim, the ultimate outdoor amphitheater, built for the ultimate sports fan, with a colossal screen that brings the game closer than ever. Reserve a daybed, private cabana, or lounge in the center of it all. 6 pools to dive into as the game heats up. And the best part, there's never an off-season. Open 365 days a year. Stadium Swim, it's always spectator season.
You spoke, we listened. Introducing the all-new VSiN Watch app. Now, you can watch and listen to VSiN expert analysis live wherever you are. Missed a show? No problem. Catch replays of VSiN's full lineup at any time. View highlights sorted by sport. Or use the search feature to find specific teams and topics you're looking for. And the best part? It's free for a limited time. Download the VSiN Watch app today. Available now on the App Store and Google Play. And join us on the Sports Betting Network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
March on with Adam Chernoff here, Right Angle Sports. The podcast is called The Simple Handicap. Okay, so we did have a bunch of breaking news earlier this morning. Some of that news, obviously, in Indianapolis with the Colts, as they have decided to go to Joe Flacco as the quarterback and sit Anthony Richardson. As a result, some books, including Circa, moved down Vikings to 5. Other books are around 5.5, right? There had to be a move here, right? Colts are 7-1 ATS, and Flacco, it's a totally different offense with this guy at quarterback.
It is. You see the pass rate jump 10% between quarterbacks. You see the passing success rate jump as well. It is a completely different offense. I'll give you the fan take and I'll give you the betting take. I think the betting take is it makes the Colts more of an over because they're going to sustain more offense, and it makes them in the moment a slightly better team. I think the 1-point adjustment was fair and accurate. I'm giving you just like the general fan and league take, if you will. I think it's a very early hook and a very early bench for Anthony Richardson. He's been in the league for a year and a half, but he's only started 10 games. There's some very good numbers that came across from Steven Ruiz and some others that showed if you're comparing Richardson in his first 10 starts to Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, as well as Tua, his EPA per play for Richardson in his first 10 starts is higher than all of those guys. And something else that I think is interesting that is creating kind of a big divide in the film community is Richardson, when you look at his games in his film, in terms of receiver error, in terms of being hit while throwing, Richardson is top in the league in both of those categories. And in terms of expected completion percentage, which is a reflection of how wide open guys can be downfield and how easy the throws a quarterback is making can be, Richardson ranks dead last in the NFL. So he's had really no help. He's had very tough throws to try to make, and he's not completing any of them because he's struggling in that regard. So it's kind of worked against him in a bit. I sure think it's early, 10 games in to do it, but what it tells me is the Colts think that they can obviously win right now, and they're in a bit of a tight window to win right now with Flacco, and that's why they're making the move. It's
intriguing and interesting. I think Mitch also hit on it earlier, that getting benched because of asking out and taking a play off that did not go over well in the locker room. But can you develop someone in practice too as well? Follow the Money, Paulie and Mitch, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Adam Chernoff, our guest, Right Angle Sports. Check out Simple Handicap Podcast. Follow them on X as well. And our all-new VSiN Watch app makes it easy to watch or listen to VSiN anywhere, anytime. For a limited time, you can only watch it for free. Visit the Apple app or Google Play Store now to download the VSiN Watch app. It's awesome. 24/7 access to our live audio and video streams. Watch replays of your favorite shows. Browse clips by sport. The VSiN Watch app, free to download. Both Apple and Android users. Don't delay. Apple or Google App Store now. Download the all-new VSiN Watch app now and become part of the team. I'm very excited for this Rams game. And it's a huge game now with the Rams keeping people and getting the win on Thursday night. This is the reason Seattle missed the playoffs last year. They got swept by the Rams, and it should be exciting. What do you think of the Rams-Seahawks game and the losers in a world of hurt?
Best game of the season to watch as a fan. No question about it. This must-see TV. It's going to be awesome. Obviously committed to work, so unfortunately cannot attend the game. Would have loved to. This is going to be an awesome game to watch. We bet the over in this game at 48. It is 48.5. I would still play that currently. I'm looking at this game, and the big thing to me for the Seattle offense is getting reinforcements back on the offensive line. There is a chance that both Abe Lucas and George Fant are back. It's been a problem all season long for Seattle, getting protection, sustaining protection in the pocket. Geno has been amazing at navigating it. If they're able to get reinforcements back on the O-line for this game, it's going to be a massive boost. DK Metcalf, there's optimism that he is going to return for this game. It is an all-in spot for the Seahawks at home in this matchup. We've seen a big adjustment on the line. I think we could still see the Rams take a little bit of money. What I'll say about this, too, if you go back and search online for summer interviews with Sean McVay, he did a sit-down with The Athletic. There was a question about Mike McDonald coming into the NFC West that he was asked about. The look on his face said everything you need to know about this matchup and how competitive it's going to be between the two head coaches. This is defensive wizard versus offensive wizard. And I think the Rams, as big as that game was on Thursday night, They're in it pretty tough here against the Seahawks defense that's now healthy. They found their middle linebacker in the trade, which is something McDonald did in Baltimore to shore everything up. And those corners for Seattle now back and healthy make a big deal too. But I think this is going to be an awesome game to watch. As I said, we like the over in this one.
Okay, so how much of an adjustment is there to be made with the Cleveland Browns one game in? Should the Browns have won the game on Sunday? Probably not. I mean, Ravens are dropping passes on both sides of the football. Game was over with at the end with the INT. Hamilton drops that one, puts it on the floor as well, and they could not outscore Cleveland in that spot. But Winston goes for more than 300 yards, and it looked pretty good on offense. They're back at home again this week. Chargers team, are they picking up more confidence by the week? Herbert's playing well. They're laying 2 now at some spots in the matchup. Overall, your thoughts on this game, the matchup in the Cleveland Browns now with Winston at quarterback?
I bet the Chargers -1.5. I bet over 42.5 as well. Both of those numbers still out there. I would recommend both of them still as well. The adjustment for Jameis Winston is significant. We saw a completely different looking Browns offense with him under center. It's what a lot of folks wanted and what we kind of expected to see out of this. And it showed through. The pass rate increases, the attempts were through the roof. There was downfield shots being taken. It's boom or bust. We know what we're getting with Winston. I think the bigger story is what we're seeing the Chargers offense turn into and what they're going to face here with the Browns, who lost JOK in the middle of the field, their best linebacker, the leader in the middle of the field. They also have Denzel Ward in concussion protocol, his second concussion of the season. That's their best cornerback. So not only do you have a heightened Browns offense, you have a weakened Browns defense, and you have a Chargers offense now that sensed the bye when Greg Roman came out and said, we're expanding the offense. We're opening it up. We're letting Justin Herbert throw more. We've seen the pass rate jack way up, and we are seeing the Chargers now, in terms of yards per play, the last couple of weeks since they came out of the bye, 6.2 yards per play against Arizona, 5.9 against the Saints. And somehow these games are not getting over the total. Now they have a really good partner with a really competent offense on the other side with Winston. You have a weakened defense, and perhaps this Chargers defense a little bit inflated because of the opponents they have faced the last couple of weeks with some backup QBs. And so I think this is a spot here, LA -1.5 and an over, where we see the Chargers open things up, and we also see this game get over the total.
All right. How about Washington and the Giants in the first game? Both teams are going up and down the field. What do you think of this one?
So we have disagreement in this that I heard pre-segment. Yes. That's correct?
Correct. I like the under. Yeah.
So I like the over in this game at 43.5. There's actually 43's flat, but we'll go 43.5 for the sake of the segment and keeping it fair for everybody watching. The Giants have a bit of an issue at left tackle since Andrew Thomas went down. They haven't done a lot to replace it, but in this game, they're facing a Commanders defense that's pretty beat up in the front seven, and they're not going to be able to generate pressure against this Giants offensive line like the Steelers were able to last night, like the Eagles were able to a couple of weeks ago. A different scenario, different matchup, different opponent. And like you mentioned, the Giants went up and down the field in the first meeting. They just didn't have a kicker to capitalize on some of those opportunities. Washington, on the other side, I think when you look at this defense, on one hand, you can suggest that maybe there's a little bit of improvement. On the other hand, I'm looking at some of these opponents that they have faced. Chicago last week, complete no-show out of the bye, but that's a rookie quarterback. You face Carolina with the Bryce Young scenario. The one time they had to really be tested and step up, they faced the Ravens and allowed 7.5 yards per play over the last month. And so perhaps this defensive improvement that is being implied to exist with Washington is a little bit blown out of proportion too. And so I think this is a spot where, like the first meeting, both teams have a lot of success moving the football. Washington's able to navigate the pressure the Giants can create and take advantage of the secondary. So in this spot here, over 43.5 is the play for me.
But a minute left here, Adam. Lifelong Jets fan. Assuming they don't run the table and make the playoffs, right? They lose a couple more. They miss out. What do you do with Rodgers next year?
I mean, there's no other moves they can make. It's not as bad as the Browns situation because there wasn't that massive contract ruining the franchise. But I don't know. Like, is Adams going to want to stay around if Rodgers is gone or he retires? The ripple effects of what's going on is massive. And the problem is that there was so much put in this season, and it's been a complete disaster to date, that even if you do get guys back next year, I mean, what could change? Yeah. So It's coaching, it's ownership, it's the GM, it's becoming the QB, it's becoming a bit of everything, and it looks like a long window of continued suffering for all Jets fans, including myself.
I think you might be spot on with that, unfortunately. Adam's with Right Angle Sports. His podcast is called The Simple Handicap. He's on X as well, at Adam Chernoff. Thanks, buddy. We appreciate it. Time as always. Good luck this week.
Thanks very much, guys. Chat to you soon.
There you go. He joined us on the Progressive Guest Line. We'll go from Adam to professional sports bettor Paul Stone. Up next, his best bets in college football. He has an opinion on Penn State, Ohio State. Find out what it is next.
It's that magical time of year, the sports equinox, when all 4 major sports are in action. VSiN is